welcome to another episode of the Virtual Ninja Show. My name is Heike, and you please check out aka.ms/ninja show, because that's the place for you to check out previous episodes, but also look at our calendar for upcoming episodes and add them to your calendar so you don't miss them. Today, we are going to talk about Microsoft Defender Vulnerability Management, and I have Ayelet with me. Ayelet, please introduce yourself.
Thanks, Heike. My name is Ayelet Artzi. I'm a PM in the Customer Engineering team.
Perfect. And I know that you know basically everything about Microsoft Defender Vulnerability Management. That's why you're with me on the show. Thank you so much. So we will start covering the basics a little bit before we actually go deeper into various components. But I think it's important to mention different licensing options that we have. And I will pass it on to you, Ayelet, to explain us what are the different options that customers have in order to get their vulnerabilities discovered and remediated.
Today we have the Defender Vulnerability Management, which is coming as part of the Defender for Endpoint P2, with all the core capabilities covering vulnerability assessment, compliance assessment, prioritization of security recommendation to take, and also remediation tracking.
And when you say the core capabilities, now I think there is a little bit more, right? So it's not just the core.
Correct, okay. So any customer that is eligible to MD, Defender for Endpoint P2, is also eligible to purchase the MDVM add-on capabilities, which allows the customer an intensive assessment and additional capabilities like security baseline against external benchmarks, like Windows authenticated scan, like the ability to block vulnerable application, and a sets of additional capabilities.
So this is an add-on to the P2.
Exactly.
Okay. And how is this with if someone has Microsoft 365 E5 license? The same, so they get all the core capabilities and
Yes.
can then get the add-on?
Exactly. So if you have E5, you have the Defender for Endpoint, and as part of that, you have the Defender Vulnerability Management with the core capabilities, and you are eligible to purchase the add-on capabilities.
Okay. And then I think something that we have in general availability since last year is the standalone SKU, which is everything.
Exactly. So the standalone includes the core capabilities and the add-on capabilities, and this is dedicated for customers who haven't yet using the Defender for Endpoint P2 or are using a different EDR solution or just want to replace their existing vulnerability management solution.
So that was now P2, E5, M365 E5, standalone. What about P1?
P1 does not include the vulnerability management capabilities.
And we would ask customers to then go and add the standalone SKU?
Exactly. So if you're a customer with P1 capabilities, you are eligible to purchase the standalone capabilities, and then you will get all the vulnerability management core capabilities and add-on capabilities.
All the goodness. Yes. So, of course, we already did an episode on Microsoft Defender Vulnerability Management, and we don't want to go over everything again, but we still want to cover some of the basics and then go deeper into some of the capabilities that you brought with you for us. So in a nutshell, Ayelet, so why is Microsoft Defender Vulnerability Management the perfect solution for our customers?
I will say that Microsoft Defender Vulnerability Management provide end-to-end set of capabilities covering all the vulnerability risk management lifecycle. This is to help and manage the extended risk and reduce the exposure of each organization.
So, and this is not just for Windows components or Windows applications or like Microsoft applications. So what are we covering today?
Great question, Heike. Today, the Defender Vulnerability Management is span across many platforms, and we would like to cover any assets that we see in our organization. So, of course, we have the known operating system like Windows, Linux, mobile. We are covering network devices. And lately we added a few more coverage items. The first one, we are enabling vulnerability assessments for containers within Microsoft Defender for Cloud.
Wow. So what does it mean? Like I have no clue what kind of vulnerabilities can be in containers. Is this because there is a full other image in there, or what can be discovered there?
So there are many containers and Kubernetes images, and we are supporting and making sure that those images are clean from vulnerabilities. And whenever a customer is using those containers, then the organization can be sure that those cannot be attacked.
Okay, and you mentioned images. It still means, though, that there is an ongoing discover, right? So it's not that it's a one-time check if that container is clean, but it will continue to monitor.
It will continue to monitor the image, correct.
Good. So what's the next that we added?
So today we are also supporting virtual machines. That means that if you're a customer that is eligible for Microsoft Defender for Cloud, you will be able to see all your virtual machines within the security portal. Let me show you within the portal how can we see virtual machines. We will go into the devices and filter. Here we can see that we have cloud platform filter. We can choose any platform that we would like, click apply, and we will get the set of virtual machines under this cloud platform. Of course, this includes all the end-to-end capabilities of Defender Vulnerability Management. If I will go into each one of those devices, I will be able to view the security recommendation related to this device, ability to get into each one of the security recommendation and start a remediation action, and also to track it, and also we'll be able to see all the discovered vulnerability related to this device, along with KB and all the end-to-end vulnerability management lifecycle.
Wow, this is amazing. So, and then question, this is then also available on the Defender for Cloud side, or is that different? Do they need to come into our portal to get all this information?
Correct. It's available in both.
Wow. This is even better. So for those that are not yet coming into our portal, they can see it in the Defender for Cloud portal. Good. So, and then for the containers, it looks probably similar. So you have a view of all the container images, and you can then also see all the vulnerabilities and so on.
So the container is available only on the Microsoft Defender for Cloud side.
Ah, okay. I'm pretty sure it's moving at some point. I hope so.
Probably. One more exciting thing to share, Heike?
Yes.
Is that currently we also merged the enterprise IoT into the Defender portal.
Wow. Yes. This is important. And I know from an episode that I did in the last season, customers don't even know how many IoT, OT devices they have. And they are always super surprised when they turn it on to get visibility. And of course, it's super critical to also see if they're vulnerable or not. So please go ahead, Ayelet.
Definitely. So if we will go into the devices tab, we will see that we have IoT devices tab. Within that, we can see enterprise IoT devices such as printers, smart TV, voice over IP, and many more. If we want to get the end-to-end vulnerability assessment process within the portal, we need to enable the enterprise IoT toggle within the portal. For that, we will go to settings. From there to device discovery, enterprise IoT, and we will just turn on the toggle for enterprise IoT. That means that going back into the devices, we will now have end-to-end vulnerability assessment for each one of the enterprise IoT devices. This includes, of course, the discovery, and later on the prioritization, the security recommendation, action items that we can do, ability to track those remediation actions, and also a continuous monitoring and posture on those devices. So going into each one of the devices, we will get all the relevant vulnerability management screens like security recommendation, discovered vulnerabilities, and more.
So I don't know if that's already the right time, but I was very curious to see something that we just announced, I think a month ago, about the vulnerable component feature or like a list. It's a new thing.
Vulnerable components come to answer the need that lately we see many developers that are using open source packages, and due to that, it's very hard to identify vulnerabilities within a component rather than a software. For that, the Defender Vulnerability Management tool introduced a new inventory. Let me show you it in the portal. Under inventories, we have vulnerable components inventory. Here we can see a set of predefined components like Log4j, OpenSSL, WebP, LightDB, and for each one of them, we will be able to gain any information related to component and software. So let's see an example. I will start with best practices. A SOC analyst or vulnerability management engineer goes into the exposure score on a daily basis to check what is the risk exposure of his organization, with the goal, of course, to reduce the risk score. In order to reduce the risk score, we need to go to the security recommendations, which are prioritized, and for each security recommendation, we have impact here, where this reflects that if we will implement this security recommendation, the security exposure score of the organization will reduce in X point, and the device secure score will be increased in Y score. Let's go to one of the security recommendations that is related to vulnerable component, which is a new security recommendation that starts with attention required. So I found here attention required vulnerability in Apache Log4j. When opening this security recommendation, I'm getting an overview. What does it mean? What is the vulnerability? How many associated CVEs along with the severity of it? How many devices are impactful? And how will the exposure score will reduce if I will take care of this vulnerability? I can see also what are the exposed devices. So for this example, I have one exposed devices. If I will click on it, I will be able to see details on the specific device and this specific vulnerability. I will go into the inventory tab and I will check the vulnerable component. Under the vulnerable component, we can see that we have a few Log4j components with different installed version, and for each one of them, there is a different number of weaknesses, and we are getting all the information in one screen. We can also see if there is an exploit which is publicly available, which means we need to take care of this vulnerability.
Right away, yes.
And if I would like to understand why does the tool thinks that this component is vulnerable on this device, I will click on it and I will go to evidence and I will see the path where this vulnerable component is installed on the device. If I want to get additional details on this specific component, I will open the component page. And here I'm getting a visual view of how many vulnerabilities with which severity, how many devices are exposed, and I can go into the version distribution and understand the details of this vulnerable component. And I can see that there are many versions out there in my organization. I can see here the amount of devices that this is installed on, and I can see also the discovered vulnerabilities and understand what do I need to take care of first. I can also see from here on which devices is it installed. I can see the security recommendation and also the discovered vulnerabilities.
So now you did it the other way around. So we looked into the vulnerable component inventory, but then you decided to go to your recommendations to understand what needs to be remediated right away, like looking at the score. But I remember on Twitter, on X, when I shared the blog about the announcement, someone asked, like, this is a nice inventory, but in the inventory, they can't see all the devices that are currently impacted with vulnerable components. So do they still need today go into each of them? Or where do I see basically all the devices that have a vulnerable component on it?
We can see it from both sides, either from the vulnerable component side or from the device side. So if we will go again to the inventories, under the vulnerable component, we have a list of all the vulnerable components. For each one of them, we will be able to see on which installed device does this component install. If I want to get the evidence of where does it install, I can go to vulnerable files and see exactly the path that this vulnerable component is located. If I want to be in a specific device and get all the details, I will get into the device itself. And from the device itself, I will go into the inventories and I will be able to see the exact path where this vulnerable component is installed. So if I will click on it, I know that in this specific device, OpenSSL, I have few locations that this vulnerable component is being used. And all of those locations, I need to make sure that I'm taking care of this vulnerable component and make sure that this is indeed mitigated.
Okay, but you have to go to each component. There is no single view of, I don't know, there's like 4 components, and those are all the 15 devices where some of these components are installed and vulnerable.
So this can be achieved using a custom advanced hunting query with the exact details that we would like to capture. Another great capability that we are recently released is the CVE description generated by AI. So for each CVE, we are getting all the details. What is the severity? What is the CVSS score? Do we have an exploit or existing alert related to this CVE? But now, whenever we will click on each CVE, we will also be able to get the vulnerability description. This is generated by AI, where we are collecting the information from different open source from the internet sources like NVIDIA, IBM, Microsoft, and this allows us an informative description that includes 4 key points. The first one is a summary. As you can see here in the example, it's a detailed summary explaining what does this CVE, and the second one is the impact. What is the impact and the risk that this CVE has on our devices and the data that we have, followed with the remediation section. The remediation section is great, and we're getting amazing feedback from customers. As you can see here, we are providing detailed remediation steps, including version number, which we need to upgrade in order to mitigate the risk. And this is followed with additional information in case we have such, where we want to provide additional informative data related to this CVE. Of course, each one of them is also, you have the reference for the different, either if it's threat intelligence report or if it's an external source that you can dig into it and get more details.
Ayelet, I know that we already talked about, for instance, you can do everything in advanced hunting and ask for things that you would like to know. But what about reports that customers need for either their higher level leadership team or for their team? Is there anything that they can use? I know we have some reports in the system, but there's also other options to create reports.
Indeed. We do have some built-in reports within the portal, but in addition to that, we added a capability for custom reporting outside of the portal. So with the massive amount of vulnerability management API, we can do magic.
Wow.
We can connect it to different systems, either to ticketing system or SIEM system, but we can also use it for custom reporting. So in order to ease our customers, what we did, we created a built-in ready MDVM templates for any customer use. So in just one click on a ready template, customer will get a Power BI application with around 8 to 9 different dashboards, either if it's details on vulnerabilities, end of service, software within the organization, anything that you can think of, where the customer can choose either to build an executive summary for management or detailed report for his daily use. And anything that the customer wants to adjust, it can use either those ready templates or to use it as a baseline and build upon that additional reports. So an example for a report, this is the vulnerability report, when we can choose how do we want to filter. If we want to filter based on OS, if we want to filter based on severity. Another example is the Windows missing security updates, where we can share top missing security updates or list of top devices with missing security updates that needs to run. In addition to that, we have the software inventory, where we can understand and get a list of all the software installed in our organization and understand number of installation of each one of the application. We can also get a list of vulnerable application and what are the remediation steps that we did with it. Mm-hmm. Additional to that, we have the misconfiguration and compliance reports and many ready reports allowing you to view the vulnerability management data.
This is nice. And people can find this on GitHub or in our documentation, or how do they get this template?
Customer can get it in our documentation.
Okay, this is, I think, beautiful, because of course, our dashboard is nice and people can filter, but this is just a very different way of working with all the data around vulnerabilities and remediations. Mm-hmm. So I think we covered a few of these new components, but I would like to ask also a little bit around the operational side of the house, Ayelet. So you work with customers a lot every day around Microsoft Defender vulnerability management. So what is your recommendation on what are the tasks that you should do on a daily basis? What are the things, let's call it inventory for us, that you do maybe once a month and other things every other week? So can you explain a little bit how that is being operationalized?
Of course. So it's actually differ between the different customers that we have. A customer can choose the proactive approach, where this means that they are tracking the exposure score on a daily basis. So every day, the security analyst or the vulnerability engineer is going into the dashboard of vulnerability management and checking if there were any changes within the exposure score. So I can see the score that I have today, but I can also see the trend of what is the history of this exposure score. Mm-hmm. And then I want to be proactive and take some action. So I will go to the security recommendation, which is a prioritized list based on the impact of each security recommendation, and I will start and implement those recommendations and reduce my exposure score of the organization. In addition to that, I will go to advanced hunting and I will start and build some custom queries to detect and understand statuses in my organization. For example, if there is any vulnerable version that is installed, and get a list of devices. If I want to understand specific old version and to mitigate it and such.
But why would I need advanced hunting queries? It's all shown in the dashboard, no?
It's all shown in the dashboard, but if I want to do some integration with the specific list of critical devices, if I want to create a custom detection on a set of devices or set of software, and I want it to continue and run all the time and alert to me in case there is any activity that I would like to mitigate, then I will use the advanced hunting custom detection.
Mm-hmm. I was just about to ask, it's like, so you basically have to go proactive unless there is an alert that alerts you. Can you otherwise get any sort of notifications from the systems like, whoa, there is a new CVE, go check it out?
Yes, so we have the email notification that we can define. This is under settings, under endpoints, and we have email notification. I can go to the vulnerability tab and add notification rule.
Nice.
So for example, I want a notification on critical vulnerability, and then I will be able to select either a specific device group or on all devices, and I will be able to check what the exact notification that I would like to do. If I want, for example, to get notification only on critical severity, I will just configure it right here. Mm-hmm. And I have also the ability to decide if I want to get the notification only when there is an exploit that is verified, or when there is a public exploit, and so on, choosing the details and adding the email notification to get it eventually, and set the rule.
Nice. Okay, so on a daily basis, we check our exposure score, we check the recommendations. They're usually ordered by the highest impact on the risk score. And we lower the risk score and increase the secure score
Exactly.
by remediating those. Are there any things such as, I don't know, let's say, for instance, the Power BI dashboard that you just showed us, or the report, anything that you recommend also doing, but maybe not on a daily basis?
Yes, a few things that I would like to talk about. The first one, if we will go to inventory, we have massive amount of data related to our organization. As part of the vulnerability management add-on, we are providing additional inventories. Let's start with the browser extension. If we will go into the browser extension, we will get a list of all the extensions that are installed in our organization with the permission that each one of them is required. In case there is a massive permission for one of those browser extensions, we will get a security recommendation, and we can see also here the permission risk, and we can act accordingly to lower the risk of the organization. Same goes for certificate, where we have the ability to view all the certificates installed in our organization. And for each one of them, we are getting executive summary that identify and share with us information of certificates that are about to be expired, weak signed certificate. And as an organization, we can use this data and decide how do we want to act and remediate? For example, send notification to customers with certificate that is already expired or about to be expired. We also have the hardware and firmware category, where here we are running vulnerability assessment on those vendors that we listed here, Lenovo, HP, Dell, and Microsoft. And for each one of them, we are able to get all the details and on which devices is it installed, and if there is any vulnerability that we need to mitigate.
So, and Ayelet, those are the things that you do every week, every other week. So I mean, of course, it probably depends also a little bit on the size, but what other recommendations?
So it's really differ between customers. We are, of course, recommending to get into this data and view it on a daily or a weekly basis at least, to make sure that there are no vulnerabilities related.
Thank you so much. And so, okay, we have the general dashboard. We have these individual pieces. I think that's it, basically, where customers have to view what's going on in their environment related to vulnerabilities, or do they need to go in a different place as well?
The last thing to mention is, of course, the baseline assessment. Customers are getting real-time compliance status and posture status of their devices. If we will get into the baseline assessment, we have a dashboard summarizing our compliance status in the environment, and customers also have the ability to define profiles based on operating system and a specific benchmark, either if it's STIG or CIS. Let's take a quick example where we can see here set of devices with set of policies that the customer can choose, and view the compliance status of the set of devices that he chose. And of course, nothing needs to be done, only to set the profile, and it's continuously running and getting the compliance status of those devices.
Thank you. And I know it's a big topic and the episode is very short for all of the things that are in Defender Vulnerability Management, but Ayelet did an amazing work to put our Defender Vulnerability Management Ninja training together. So you go to aka.ms/mdvm ninja, and there you can learn everything about it. You can do a knowledge check and get a certificate. And I think those are good words for everyone, right, Ayelet, to go check it out, learn more about it, and of course, provide feedback. And you can also go to and look for a trial for Defender Vulnerability Management in case you don't own the license yet. Are there any other call for actions, Ayelet, that I forgot?
No, that's it.
Perfect. So thanks, everyone. Thank you, of course, Ayelet, for walking us through. And I hope I will see everyone next time again. Bye.